Hey guys, today we're making this amazing cookies and cream cake. It is so delicious that you're gonna wanna make one right away. So let's get started. First step is to sift the dry ingredients into a large bowl. I'm adding 2 cups of all-purpose flour, it's a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, teaspoon baking powder, a liberal pinch of kosher salt, and 1 cup of granulated sugar. Sift it into a large bowl, give it a quick whisk, and set aside. Cream together 3/4 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature in a standing mixer fitted with the paddle attachments. We want it nice and fluffy before we add our dry ingredients in. To prep my little 6-inch pans, I'm going to give them a nice coat of butter, coat that in flour, and then tap out the excess. That's all you need to do for a perfect release. I'm mixing the wet ingredients together in a medium bowl, and then we're ready to get that batter together. 1/2 cup of sour cream, 1/2 cup of whole milk, teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm using 3 egg whites, not the yolks, just because I don't want the cake to be too yellow. I want like a nice bright cake contrasting with those Oreo bits inside. Whisk it all together. My butter is light and fluffy, and now I'm gonna dump in the dry ingredients and mix it up until it's combined. Doing this coats all the flour in butter, and that's gonna prevent the gluten from activating, which means you're not gonna get a tough bready cake. It's gonna be super moist and delicate, especially with that sour cream. I just want to show you we ended up with this really nice crummy mixture. That's exactly what you want. I'm using Oreo cookies for this recipe, and you can use any cookie you'd like, but something about the crunchiness of the cookie with the creaminess of the filling is really good in this cake. So, just FYI. Give them a rough chop, and then we're going to add that into the batter at the very end. Add the wet mixture in and mix it up. Don't forget to scrape that bowl down, it's important. The batter is all mixed, and the last step is to fold in our crushed Oreos. And oh my gosh, can you see how delicious this looks? It's pretty insane. Distribute the batter evenly into your 3 pans. I weighed all my pans out so I could make sure each layer was exactly the same. Nobody wants a cake with like a thick layer, a tiny pancake, and a medium-sized one. It just ruins the whole bite to like buttercream consistency. Very important. Last step is going to be to add cake strips onto the edge of the pan. This will give us a nice even bake with flat layers that are not burnt on the side. The cake's going to bake at 340 Fahrenheit for about half an hour to 35 minutes, or until the center is springy and the edges are just pulling away from the pan. Before I start the buttercream, I'm going to crush some more Oreo cookies, but this time I'm using a rolling pin and getting a nice fine crumb instead of a rough chop, because I want a consistency that's easy to decorate with. For the buttercream, I'm adding in 1.5 cups or 340 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature into a standing mixer fitted with the paddle attachment, and we're gonna make it nice and fluffy before we add the sugar. Before I add my 5 cups or 600 grams of confectioner sugar, I'm gonna sift it out just to make sure there's no lumps. Add the confectioner sugar in like 2 batches and just give it a mix and scrape the bowl down. You know what to do. I added my last batch of sugar in, and now I'm gonna drizzle some cream in just so that it's not gonna break my mixer. It's pretty thick. Before I add my Oreos in, I'm going to reserve a little bit less than a cup of the buttercream so that I can have beautiful white dollops on top. Time to add the Oreos. All mixed, and look at this. You can tell already all the Oreo goodness that's inside of here. It is real good. Before we assemble the cake, I'm going to make a chocolate ganache, but I'll warn you, it's a lot. This cake is becoming very, very decadent. So if you're not a chocolate lover, feel free to skip this step. But if you are a chocolate lover, let's make some ganache. 1 cup of chopped semi-sweet chocolate into a medium bowl, and we're just going to pour some hot, heavy cream on top of that. Cover the bowl for like 2 minutes, and then we're going to whisk it up. And I just want to show you, look how flat those layers are, perfect for stacking, and that's because of the cake strips we used. They gave me a nice even bake with really tender sides, and it's just going to be moist and delicious. Okay, now it's time for the fun part. I'm going to assemble the cake. I'm starting off by piping on my buttercream. Put the second layer on, repeat the process, drizzle on your ganache, and now cover it completely in that delicious Oreo buttercream. I'm using an offset spatula to smooth the top and a bench scraper for the sides. Pull in the top while you turn to get a nice edge. Now I'm adding my crushed cookies onto the skirt of the cake for some nice visual appeal. Totally optional, but I like the contrast, especially with the ganache on top since it's really dark. Drizzle your ganache on top. I like to make my drips first and then add the ganache into the center because the drip situation can be kind of tricky, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes the ganache is too cold and it doesn't drip enough. Sometimes it's too hot and it runs all the way to the bottom, so you have to get it just right. Okay, use an offset spatula to smooth the top, and now we're going to add our beautiful dollops of vanilla buttercream on with an 869 tip. My favorite tip. I totally recommend this one if you're going to be shopping for a cake decorating tip. It's really versatile. I cannot wait to eat this. It's going to be horrible for my diet, but I live life without regrets most of the time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.